We're trying to make sense of this. I feel like from the index position, to Brent's point, maybe it is just kind of, sell anything beyond the range for the S&P 500. But I know that you're watching some particular stocks. I do wonder if kind of the way you guys like to view things for stock-specific options flows is kind of a way to avoid having to figure out this great mystery in Pandora's box of the overall market.
Yeah, I like, and I'm never a big fan of broad market ETFs. I'll trade them occasionally, but it's not our bread and butter. We like defining our bets on individual names or individual asset classes like Bitcoin, like gold, and I've got some examples. I mean, gold today, for instance, GLD, the ETF for gold, that's not like everything from healthcare to retail and all that kind of stuff. No, it's a very specific bet. So when somebody makes a really big bet in a specific sector like gold, an asset class like gold, I think the odds favor me following that trade. That's what we do. So with the GLD trading at around 473, they were coming in and they were buying the end of March, the 27th of March, so not the options that expire this week, the first week in March, and not the options that expire the second week or even the third week, the end of March. So you have a fair amount of time in this one, and they're betting that it trades back up towards 495 or higher for the GLD.
Looking at that right now, just pulled it up from your guys' highlights here. So the 495 calls, and people aren't phased, I mean, we were just there, 2.5 days ago? Not quite. We got to 490.
Yeah, well, and what I really like is I like looking back at where we were on Friday with a lot of different stocks, airline stocks in particular, and there's a guy that I'm sure you know, Oliver, Stephen Moore. He writes for the Wall Street Journal, and he's on TV a lot. And he was saying, hey, what happened to the 80 or 100 point, or not 100 point, $100 jump that some people were saying we'd get if we ever attacked Iran? It didn't happen. We got 8%, for God's sake. So I think it's because, as the president said, we're pretty much ahead of our timeline. He thought it might take 4 weeks to do what basically Israel and the United States did in a day. I think the more that we've basically taken apart their defenses, and I do joke about saying, hey, they bought this stuff from Timu, for God's sake. It does feel like that. I mean, I have seen some anti-aircraft fire and some heat-seeker missiles that look a little more sophisticated, but for the love of God, for all the money they gave to the Russians and the Chinese, the Iranians are not getting value out of that from what we've seen, and I don't think that's AI. I think we've pretty much decimated their command and control, and taken down their entire Navy, as well as that battleship or whatever it was that was running to the Indian Ocean to hide, and we took that one down with one of our submarines. We took out their only submarine and so forth. So I have a high degree of confidence in the effectiveness of the military and of the plan, and it certainly seems to be doing a great job as we speak, Oliver. And that's why you've seen the vol come down so dramatically, as well as the opportunities in the market get better and better every minute of the trading day.
I'm looking at Kalshi right now. Will Iran effectively close? Effectively, I think the key word here, the Strait of Hormuz for 7+ days. They're all below 50%, John, and a lot of people put this out there as the number one kind of Iran-related geopolitical risk. So as long as that number's under 50%, maybe crude is capped at $80. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think so. We couldn't even get above the June highs for crude oil, and that's June, of course, of 2025. I mean, pull that chart up sometime, guys.
Yeah, got it.
You see that. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
look at that.
Yep,
you
there
know,
it is
we
right
got
there.
right up to it, and
Yep.
we couldn't even get through those highs. So I think that there's been a lot of bluster and a lot of miscalculation in terms of how strong the response would be. And by the way, thank goodness these the leadership, while it was still alive over in Iran, decided that, oh, well, we're just going to attack everyone in the region. That's a brilliant ploy because, number one, they're not very well liked anyway. It's a different brand of the Muslim faith, and in many cases, the other countries that practice that don't really like the sort that the leaders.
Right. Well, there was
in
also
Iran-
reports Saudis were on our side. So
Yep.
that's kind of been my view generally too. Is that if you don't, the whole kind of risk of the reason why I keep saying to fade this idea of World War III, is that one is it's a lot of I think people have been looking for this for so long, this conflict to emerge. But the other one is that the kind of triangle of bad guys, Russia and China, are sort of busy with their own things. Putin's playing despot or God or whatever you want to call it in Ukraine, and she is busy trying to keep up with our technology, basically. So that's where I feel that crude maybe capped at $80, and I generally feel like I would just be better off as an investor trying to play the more solid stuff, which is either tech, which is AI, which is myriad of other things. I mean, there's stocks in here. One of the things that popped up in yours I haven't even heard of is DINO ticker. I mean,
Yep.
there's so much stock-specific stuff here. Tell me about what's going on there, John.
Sure. Well, DINO, I remember, and I joked about it on our show this morning, that I'm old enough to remember Sinclair, because that's the name of the company, when they had these big green dinosaurs, and they would give those dinosaurs
fossil
away.
fuels.
Yeah, well, and also, it's kind of a play on that. Are they?
Yeah.
Is oil a dead dinosaur anyway, from the Jurassic period and so forth, and/or the fact that a lot of the domestic production, and these guys are domestic, of course, is going to
Texas-based.
remain in high demand, and they have fairly safe ability to hold on to it, to put it into storage. By the way, there's about 90 million barrels at any given time on the sea right now. That's not a DINO trade, but I'm just saying that's how much crude oil there is floating around. And when you consider that, I think the little bit of turbulence that we felt over from this pop in crude oil prices, and thus we'll feel it as far as gasoline and diesel, won't be long-lived. There's a lot of floating cargo out there that will be making its way to various refineries. It just won't be finding its way to China anymore, as we know that, their sanctioned oil purchases, Oliver. Think of this. It's not just a cutoff from Venezuela, not just a cutoff from Iran, but it's also they're going to have to pay in dollars, and they're going to have to pay a premium in order to get it. They were buying at a discount. So this has really hurt China right now at a time when, again, you and I have talked about 4D chess and the president before, but right now, really, could they wage war in Taiwan? I think you virtually neutered their ability to wage war in Taiwan for any period of time. Could they attack them? Sure they could. But if they chose to wage war there, that would be at the loss of how much humanity in China, because they'd have no energy to get food to market or anything else, because they have zero domestic energy supply.
Like it's interesting. I mean, the constraints that ripple. Again, it just feels like there's a lot of ways the U.S. of A. could come out on top here. By the way, the dollar, which gave back a little bit today, had a really good couple days too, which is kind of, I think, also something we're happy to see in a geopolitical event. Hey, John, the last trade on your list today, Pfizer. By the way, all bullish generally too. The chart for Pfizer is kind of interesting because it was actually having a great start to the year, put in higher highs, And then now it looks like maybe it's pulled back to some support to some extent. You see him buying calls there too?
Yeah, we do. And, 8,000 calls. I know your viewers are among the most sophisticated, but 8,000 calls is 800,000 shares of stock.
Right.
I mean, just like that massive trade in GLD, that's 10 million shares of gold ETF, the GLD. So when we see any of these big sort of chunky purchases of, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of underlying, that's why we follow those. And to see Pfizer finally getting some love after, like you said, started off good and then came down somewhat dramatically, I like the idea of buying stocks when they do have that sell-off, and this is one of them.
I see a little line there I could probably draw, maybe a little technical analysis here at 26.5 bucks. A lot of trading there, and I do love a volume profile. Let's maybe see. Let me throw one up here real quick,
Sure.
just because I do kind of like when you see areas that come and go, and then you end up coming back to them. And there's a lot more trading at 26.5 bucks than there is above it, and there's a lot of trading down at 25 as well, but it does kind of seem like this is a chunky little area, maybe to find some support in Pfizer. So I get behind that, especially a chart that on the year to date was looking pretty good, because remember, a lot of people also were talking about rotation in healthcare, and that entire kind of sector dispersion trade. It was up in the first 2 months 11%, so not bad.
I agree. And the fact that the VIX came back so quickly and so forth, it wasn't really supported up there at the highs.
Yeah.
The OVX as well, and natural gas even. And clearly Europe is cut off from a lot of natural gas for the time being, because the big LNG ships out of Qatar and so forth are not going through until the U.S. Is able to escort them. And but it seems more and more likely that the new regime, when it comes in Iran, is going to be a lot friendlier to the U.S. and our allies.
Like it. Fade World War III. The theme of the convo, in and out. I feel like our intelligence and our military ability has gone exponential with so much else in AI that they can't keep up with us. USA. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Be
Hey.
well, Oliver.